Welcome to the Alldus podcast, Women in ServiceNow series, a brand new series dedicated to showcasing the incredible women leading the way in the ServiceNow ecosystem. With your host, Ailsa Cassie, each episode will bring you inspiring conversations with trailblazing women who are driving innovation, breaking barriers, and shaping the future of ServiceNow. Whether you're an aspiring leader, a seasoned professional, or just curious about the impact of female leadership in the tech space, this podcast is your go-to source for inspiration and empowerment. Join us on this exciting new journey as we dive into the stories, challenges, and triumphs of the remarkable women making their mark within the ServiceNow ecosystem.
You're listening to the Alldus podcast, Women in ServiceNow series. Today I'm joined by Jan, who is the ServiceNow Practice Lead for Dexians. Hi Jan, nice to see you today.
Thanks so much for having me. Nice to
thanks
see
so
you
much
as
for
well.
joining. So you have definitely had an interesting career. You have been in leadership now for a couple of years, and I'm very curious as to what your journey was like to get to where you are today at Dexian.
I probably have a more unique journey. My undergrad degree was from a school of music. My first job out of school was in a university setting where, generally speaking, the employee population turned over every 4 years. So I got very focused on process improvement, enabling people. I ended up going back to school to get my master's, moved into an organization as a management development consultant. And just through exposure with the CIO of the company I was with, got much more focused on transformational change and technology. Moved into a role within IT, leading a program to transition from mainframe development to object-oriented and launching a website at the time. And I've been here ever since. That my program management and competitive nature and passion to win has kind of pushed me toward roles where working with customers to drive their outcomes is where I thrive.
Was your kind of gateway into the ServiceNow ecosystem, and what does your role now involve at Dexians as a practice lead?
When I started, I was part of an infrastructure service transition team working with CSC, which is now DXC, and we partnered with customers as they moved their internal infrastructure management to an outsourced service delivery model. One of our customers was using ServiceNow pre-city release, and my responsibility was around service catalogs, and I worked with that customer to define out what their request items looked like, how the workflows behind it needed to be architected. Over time, CSC made the decision globally to transition off of Remedy and onto ServiceNow. And in my role as the global delivery lead for request management, I was very much a part of the team to make that transition, to build out a request catalog that would support hundreds of customers, more than 3 million requests, and allow 400 request management coordinators to be efficient and effective and provide quality delivery. CSC purchased Fruition Partners so that we bolstered the consulting and implementation services component. And I then moved into a role leading the Americas business around service management and ServiceNow, both consulting and the delivery of managed services. Since then, I moved on. I did my own thing for a few years and then have moved into practice leadership roles across a couple of different organizations. And my passion is very much around customer success. The experience that we provide as an organization with the services and solutions we deliver, combined with actually achieving the outcomes that the business requires. As you mentioned at the top of the call, I'm currently with Dexian, responsible for all of the platform solutions that we provide solutions and services around.
Amazing. And Dexians is, of course, where you're at the moment, but getting to the kind of stage of leadership, I'm sure, as everyone does, career progression is never linear. There's challenges, there's ups, there's downs, and we often talk about, the wins, but it's sometimes good to cover some of the challenges that have got you to where you are today, because it really builds your character and your ability to perform well in any type of role, specifically in leadership. So I'm curious, what kind of challenges have you had to overcome during your career so far?
I would love to say that my career has just been a walk in the park, but that would
would be
not
no
be
fun.
that would not, nor would it be true. But the reality is, and kind of the older I get, the more clear balancing time and investing the time that we have in areas that have the greatest impact has been and continues to be my biggest challenge, my most notable challenge. There was a long work-life balance was kind of a big phrase. You know, balance is really the phrase. You know, whether it's the time I spend with my family, the time I spend with the company, within a professional environment, you know, you're going to commit a certain amount of time, and where do you spend it? As a leader, you always want to nurture and grow and help people learn. You know, particularly, you know, as a woman, there's certain characteristics, natural tendencies that we prefer. I'm incredibly empathetic, but by the same time, as leader, I have my role and my performance criteria and the success and really the responsibility that I have to the company to provide results in the role that I'm in. And so it's not just kind of balancing family and work, but within the work environment, balancing the time where I'm helping others and also having an impact in the role that I'm in.
Yeah, we often talk in our office and at Alldus about how you've got to try and spin many plates at the same time. So for you, it's kind of nurturing your team members, knowledge sharing, training, and then also trying to maintain your own responsibilities or visibilities as a delivery expert as well. So how do you balance that?
Constantly is probably the short answer. That I do look at and have become very self-aware around what are my natural tendencies, kind of in the interest of spring and in recognition that it's coming here in the US. As I thought about this, are you more of a gardener or are you more of a landscape designer? And can you do both depending upon the context? That, you know, as a gardener, you're tending to each plant, you're giving them the specific water and the nutrients they need, you're making sure they grow strong and healthy. But as a landscape designer, you're looking a little bit more broadly. You're having that vision of what it looks like all laid out, and really trying to inspire others when they see the beauty in it and the overall design. And so thinking about those two roles in that analogy, you know, recognize where your strengths and weaknesses are. That, you know, bring in people who might be better equipped to address certain things where it doesn't require your leadership. Set goals. That you can be a very dedicated gardener who's working toward a vision, but you need to understand what that vision is and spend the time needed to make progress. You know, be flexible. It's going to rain. You know, there are going to be, you know, neighborhood dogs that trample on your plants. You can't control either of those things. And so accept the things that you can not control and control the things that you can. Delegation, you know, that there's always an opportunity to find someone to step in. Communicate. Make sure that it's clear what, as a landscape designer, what you want to do. Learn. And again, balance between the two, that there are times when that plant really needs that support. And that's what's going to make the overall yard look more beautiful. There's other times where just let them grow, let them flourish, and reflect and consider what's coming next. So short answer is I manage it constantly, looking at what's needed and then adapting accordingly.
Lovely. There's nothing I love more than a very good analogy, and you've painted a beautiful picture of the digital landscape in your role. So I really appreciate that. And you're right, it's impossible for everyone to be good at everything, but part of leadership's knowing who, you know, is the best at the problem that you need solving and who to go to delegate that task to that can help. So it's never easy, but it sounds like you've kind of got the knack for it now, which is great. And having worked in ServiceNow for a while, you're kind of part of the ServiceNow DNA. You'll have seen the product evolve a lot during your time. So is there any kind of particular features that you're really excited about at the moment?
No, absolutely. And I'm sure I'm not in the minority, but it really is all around the investment that they've made around AI and specifically the agentic AI component. That their journey, ServiceNow, they started with the scripted workflows and they had the automation based on rules. They moved more into the predictive workflows and using predictive AI to do some optimization. Generative AI came into play and was a bit more dynamic. And now this full agentic AI approach and the autonomous capabilities that it enables, the workflow, the orchestration, the tasking, all built within the framework, the underlying data fabric. It is a phenomenal time to be in this industry. So.
Amazing. And I'm going to try and ask this next question, but it is a bit of a tongue twister. Generative AI and agentic AI are, of course, very big buzzwords at the moment, but how would you describe their kind of key differences?
I'm a big fan of the keep it simple method, that generative AI generates new things, creates new things based on the input and what it's learned. It uses what it knows to create or to generate something. Agentic is that it doesn't have to be secret, but it's that agent that actually does tasks independently. It understands what you need. It can make decisions. It can complete the task on its own, and it learns continuously and adapts. And that's, you can generate new things, or you can have an agent who's got the technology behind it to learn and to work independently and actually complete tasks on its own. So that is my simple explanation.
Perfect. And as much as I said I love good analogies, I also really love good examples of case studies that put what we're talking about into practice. So I'm curious about what solutions that you're providing currently for your customers in the area of agentic AI.
I mean, the most common example that we've seen in the work that we've done with customers is around kind of the shift with using virtual agent. That there's been a lot of organizations who have adopted virtual agent, which is great. We worked with a customer recently who had virtual agent in place, but they were still struggling to keep up with the call volumes. There was a recent acquisition that had come in. With acquisitions come a lot of different dynamics, but the need to kind of optimize cost, consolidate, gain efficiencies, all of those themes were starting to emerge, but they also had more customers. Hold times were going up, customer sat was going down, and we took a look at what was going on, and they were already a ServiceNow customer. Virtual Agent was doing great with the routine questions and automating some of the simple tasks, but they needed to kind of evolve and start to embrace the Now Assist capabilities. The large language models were able to create better responses to customers. So there were less actual human beings having to take calls. They were able to create the content to be able to provide that back and resolve issues, create better knowledge articles, improve efficiencies of these customer service reps just with regard to case summaries. And when you have better case summaries of what's been resolved, the next time it comes up, you have quicker resolution because that knowledge is already captured. Even just things like search capabilities and providing more actionable summaries, making it easier for the customers to get their needs met. The voice commands became a huge plus. We're just being able to process those more effectively. It just created a situation where that transition from just kind of that simple virtual agent into much more of a Now Assist component made a huge difference. So
the possibilities are endless, and it's so exciting to see how these new features can continue to be improved year on year. There'll be something else that we're super excited about next year, but I'm very interested to hear what other types of case studies and problems that you're able to solve for your customers are going to be ahead for you in 2025. Looking back at your career so far, leadership, working in loads of different types of environments and many different settings, is there anything that you would want to be able to go back and kind of tell your younger self?
I have two kids, both of whom I adore. I have a daughter who's 23, about to be 24, and my conversations with her about just always assess the balance, reflect, learn, and recognize there are things you can control and things that you can't. Think about, are you the gardener? Are you the landscape designer? Which do you really need to be? What's going to have the most benefit of where you spend your time? Are you spending the appropriate amount of time nurturing plants? Should you really be looking at what the yard should look like for the next season? And again, it's about controlling or focusing on what you can control. The weather, the neighbor's dog, just let that go. There's nothing you can do. And then the second part, is just to always recognize and be grateful, be kind, find the joy, and just know that each of us are enough.
I love that, and it's a very lovely way to end the episode. So Jan, I really appreciate your time. It's been amazing to get to know you, and I really appreciate you joining our episode today for the Women in ServiceNow series.
I appreciate you having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.